Alrighty, got another A-League match. This one between Xyrix and yurikamome. Looking at the standings, both of them are right in the middle of the pack with two matches to go. So this could easily be the make or break between making the championship match or demoting for either. Take a look at the kingdom. Neither has what would be a nice 5-2. We've got plenty of trashing. Hideout, cemetery, recruiter, forager, crystal ball. Only village. I guess never mind. There's a few villages. Recruiter, Hideout, and Ghost are all villages. You can get one copy of Ghost off the Haunted Mirror. The only draw, I believe, is Storyteller. Looks like, and then plus buy from Wine Merchant or Forager. Uh, hmm. So I think probably want a copy of Recruiter early, then some Storytellers and Wine Merchants. Is kind of the gist of the deck. How to open. I'm gonna say for sure a silver. Could be double silver, silver fortune hunter, or silver plus kintsugi to trash an estate. I was not aware of that. Let me resolve that problem. All right, crisis averted. Probably not muted on the recording. I think I was just muted in Discord. Yeah, recording audio is picking up. Upside of fortune hunter is you're likely to hit five off it because it's probably making you three money. The downside of fortune hunter is if you see it in your turn four hand, it triggers an unfortunate shuffle, where you get to buy a five, but the five has missed the shuffle. Silver Kintsugi gives you a 100% chance to hit five. I think inclines me towards that line. They both like the Fortune Hunter. That Forager gross. I don't like that one bit. Um, so if you buy a silver and trash an estate with Kintsugi, you have 10 cards in your deck and 9 money among them, which means you either have 6-3 or 5-4 or 7-2 or what have you. Actually, definitely not 7-2. You either have a 6-3 or 5-4, which means you're definitely getting a recruiter on the next shuffle. Neither player gets the fortunate turn three fortune hunter. So here we see Yurikamome does hit five out of the fortune hunter, but top decks five jump cards, which is the downside. I I think just silver trash and estate looks better than what they did. I assume the logic for Yuri is you're adding a card that gives you extra money, which allows you to justify taking an earlier forager to start trashing the coppers, I guess. And then you're hoping you get to five on the fortune hunter turn. Xerix opens fortune hunter and Kintsugi, which pretty similar to Silver Kintsugi. It's 100% to hit five. The downside of this line relative to just Silver Kintsugi, the main one is just that you're triggering that shuffle if you find it turn four, which Xerix does. I just don't like these fortune hunters one bit. Uh, Coppers aren't the end of the world in this deck. You got more than enough draw. You could get off one big cemetery trash to clean out four of them if you need to, and then recruit that for four villagers. Forager's just not a fast trasher. I don't think there's anything here that makes me want to get trash super fast. If I wanted something that killed coppers better than Recruiter, I mean, oops, that's not Hideout. Hideout is right there. Uh, I don't, I don't like the foragers. I'm gonna say second five is probably Wine Merchant before Storyteller. You're fairly thin already in these decks, and so I think, yeah, they want to go for draw. I mean, that's fair enough. That's not unreasonable. I think you could skip straight to payload and then Storyteller after that. Yuri has way too much money and not to do with it. I still vote for Wine Merchant. Yeah, I would expect the same now from xyrix. No, a gold. Honestly, not the worst purchase in the world in this kingdom. You unlock Kitsugi, and it's sort of draw with storyteller when you think about it. Uh, let's say that's eh, if you didn't have the forager, wine merchant would be a little bit more mandatory because you need to buy. They have these foragers already. Still looks like a wine merchant to me. And what else we're considering? It's like gold, a gatekeeper, silver, and a fortune hunter. More golds. Xerix is a simple man. This strikes me as a good turn to buy cemetery. Play wine merchant, play silver, buy cemetery. You'll have 2 money left. You'll get the wine merchant back. You can trash the remaining treasures. You'll get a ghost off of it, and you'll have a nice 4 cost card to recruit next turn for villages. We'll see if yurikamome does that. Mm, mhm, mhm. No, we're crashing the haunted mirror directly. I guess I didn't account for the. Ooh, that. What do I think about that line? Seems okay, I suppose. Zurich still needs a wine merchant. It just brings me happiness when someone buys a province and then immediately does as a result of it. There was no need to buy that. There is plenty of game left. I need a wine merchant, right? There we go. Xerix does have some coppers, but one thing to watch out for with Forager is you're not really increasing your deck size by more than 1 card per turn. You can trash a junk card like copper to get a buy and then buy 2 things. But at some point you run out of coppers to trash, and then the Forager's not really netting you gains anymore. Province from Yuri. Oh, what's that kind of hard? A Forager, it would seem. Yeah, definitely don't want to ghost that. Forager trashing is not optional. So if your ghost revealed a Forager, you would be stuck trashing 2 cards from your starting hand. As Yuri, I think you really want that fourth to last province. I think both of these decks are in a position where taking two provinces looks realistic and three does not. Which means you'd really like to leave the province pile at three, I would think. You gotta watch out for Kintsugi. You can trash province into province for just three money. Easy way to pile out there. I guess that's probably what Yuri is worried about. Maybe with a good draw, Xyrix can do that actually. Yeah, I didn't notice the ghosted wine merchant. Uh, so the threat here is like imagine Xyrix plays this recruiter and finds another treasure. You trash something, you play. He doesn't even need to find a treasure. Yeah. One more province would be a win in hand. Like, just don't even play the recruiter. Just that's 8 money off the wine merchant plus two from a silver. Triple Kintsugi turns golden two provinces into three provinces. So if Yuri took one province here, Xerix actually would have the win. Obviously, Yuri doesn't know that that's Xerix's exact hand, but he would know that Xerix has a wine merchant set aside already. So it's quite a threat. Uh, so what's the safest play? Duchy Silver? You also have to watch out for Salt of the Earth. Is another way to lower provinces quickly. Uh, only slightly less cheaply. There's the two wine merchants. Yuri has two wine merchants, one of which is down there. Not sure what other actions are down there. Yuri never got a draw card, did he? That's a little bit of a problem. So those bottom four cards have a wine merchant, which you would love to hit with this ghost, forager, which you'd hate to hit with the ghost, and no fortune hunter. Trash the recruiter. I think Yuri did. Yeah, Xerxes is in his hand. So I think this is like a 50-50 between a great ghost hit and a terrible ghost hit. So Duchy Silver means you get this wine merchant back off the tavern mat. You could also just consider double Duchy, given that the game is imminently ending anyway, and you have a wine merchant coming up. So maybe you don't care that much about rescuing it. Yuri says he doesn't want it back. Oh no! That's probably going to be all she wrote. Look at this hand. There's absolutely nothing that this forager would be happy to trash. And at least trashing the golds will come with like 3 money each. Let's see. Best case scenario, let's say you trashed a gold and trashed a duchy. You have 6 money. Play the wine merchant, 10 money. That could lower provinces by three. Kintsugi a gold, Kintsugi a province, buy assault the earth. It's like if Xerix purchased one province here, even despite the terrible ghost set aside, Yuri would have the win in hand. Because that line, let's see, yeah, you lose 3 points, you gain three, you gain 6 points, you gain 1 point. Um, Yuri would win by one if Xerix bought exactly one province here. Xerix has 14 money, but his only buy is on the tavern mat, and presumably he would like to rescue that. In that case, you're looking at 12 money, actually. Bit of an awkward number. These decks, Don't exactly work. We jump straight to the scoring. What are you doing with 12? I think it's actually quite reasonable to imagine that Xerix might buy a province here, even though with knowledge of Yuri's hand that's losing. Looks like he says no. What else are we buying? A second wine merchant and nothing else. Intriguing. So now what do you do, Yuri? You are mandatorily eating through most of your good cards here. And that is quite painful. I don't think you can really count on Yuri to dud. I'm sorry, I don't think Yuri can count on Xerix to dud. He ought to know that Xerx's storyteller is in his hand, and he didn't find it last turn, which means he's probably going to at least be able to kick off a decent looking turn. I think playing for a dud would mean essentially lowering provinces by 3 and then hoping Xerx has like something like a full dud hand of just green cards. Uh, what does his hand look like if the ghost had hit the wine merchant instead? You'd have 8 money coming in from wine merchant, plus 2 golds in hand. That would be a win, I think, right? I mean, not like a win-win, but you could Kitsugi 2 golds into provinces and get the wine merchant back. That feels like it would be a winning position, I imagine. Xerxes would have to do a bona fide double province plus something to beat that, or even just a double province to tie. And that's not easy in these decks on the non-ghost turns. I don't think the bottom 4 cards are all that great either for Yuri, right? One's a province, one's a wine merchant. I think 2 of them are silvers. Maybe just one's a silver. Province, wine merchant, silver, and I don't know what the last card is offhand. Hmm. Crash the duchy and salt the earth. All right, Yuri is going for broke. So first thing to consider, this is a win in hand for Xyrix. Uh, no. He could lower provinces by 2 by playing by merchant and all the treasure and then salting twice, but that wouldn't be enough points. Salt only scores 1 each. If he could find 1 more money off of the storyteller, like if you cantripped it and drew a treasure, then he would have a win off of playing the wine merchant. All right, now that's a win in hand. Yeah, it was just a nasty 50-50 on that one ghost. I mean, Yuri had to take the gamble, I think, but it did not pay off. Game 1 to Xerxes. Game 2. So we got a lot of villages, hunting lodge, university, landing party, a lot of draw cards, courtyard, catacombs, landing party, puka, hunting lodge is draw to X. Plus buy is nomads, And Galleria, you can gain things off of Ball, University, Jester. And then Puka is copper trashing. There's no way to trash your shelters. But shelters also make Jester a bit worse because they're not a victory card and they're not a card you can gain. So Jester whiffs anytime it hits one of those. I would think the goal here is basically get University early and then just keep clicking actions and draw until 3 piles. And if you do that more, you'll just naturally be way ahead on tower points. I'm gonna say Courtyard Potion looks like the correct opening. I guess that's provided you have the 4-2 split. Hookah makes the splits weird because of Cursed Gold. Looks like they both do have the 4-2 split. Uh, the 3-3 split I think would be awkward. Probably just Courtyard Silver into ideally like a potion and a 5 if you get lucky. Yeah, Courtyard Potion makes sense. This is not a good draw, I think, for either player. You really don't want to be playing the Curse Gold in this kingdom. There's no way to get the curses back out of your deck. The 5s are nice, but they're not that worth it. Xyrix definitely has the worst draw here. Bottom deck the potion, didn't get to University before the reshuffle. What do you buy here, Xyrix? Hunting Lodge is my vote. He goes with the Puka. I mean, Puka makes sense given that you got a bunch of coppers. I'm just thinking about Xerix is behind on universities and already kind of heavy on terminals with the courtyard, so you might end up with terminal collision there. Who has the hunting lodge? Xerix just gained a hunting lodge. I vote hunting lodge for Yuri. In terms of stuff that I would want to put into that shuffle that I'm about to trigger. Or are we going to trigger it? Yeah, we're going to trigger it. Yeah, like those bottom 7 cards have Hunting Lodge and a bunch of junk. And next turn, you're going to be quite happy to play a Hunting Lodge and pitch that hand and draw a new one. Even more Hunting Lodges. Yuri seems way ahead here. Xerix, I think, is just criminally suffering from consistently bad draws. He is a master of the resign button. Manages to find resign lines way earlier than most players. All right, what do we got going on here? The Ferryman target is Mill. That's okay. Uh, Draw, there's Archive, Litter, Blacksmith in the Townsfolk pile. I think that's it for villages. Litter, realistically, that's it. Sacrifice can be a village in a pinch. Trashing, there's Dismantle, Sacrifice, Secluded Shrine, Forge, lots of thinning. Plus buy Mining Road and Seaway on something. You got a little bit of all the stuff. None of it looks super strong. I think Platinum looks pretty good here. Otherwise, the payload is a little bit lacking. So I think you want to get, at some point, a mining road and then start buying platinums. I think you'll be a happy camper. How do you open? I'm not sure. Secluded Shrine and Silver? Town. So I'm thinking about how you want to trash here. Secluded Shrine is slightly faster than the other options because it trashes 2 at a time. It's only really trashing two if you value the treasures, which I mean you kind of do here, but not that much. Um, you do Secluded Shrine and Town Crier and hope to like gain a silver off of Town Crier and trash two. Maybe that lines up the way you'd want it to. Can't really count on it though. Um, One option that you could consider is just neglect trashing for a moment. Try to hit five early and get like a charlatan and some archives until you get to seven for forge, and then have one big forge turn. Something like that sounds all right. Here goes with the sacrifice. I feel like sacrifice is probably wrong. It is a tempting card because it feels nice to trash your things for benefit. But realistically, especially in a kingdom with colony, I don't think the six victory points you're going to get sacrificing estates for no immediate upside is likely to be worth it. All right. Yuri takes a gamble on the double terminal opening. It looks like it pays off because they don't collide. Xyrix goes for a dismantle. I'm not convinced that's actually even better than sacrifice. Um, and Xerix doesn't get punished with the terminal collision. I mean, Gold's not a terrible card here, but it's not a great card either. Copper's pretty bad. If Xerix is just using the dismantle to trash coppers, it's even worse than a sacrifice. A sacrifice at least gets you two money back trashing coppers. It's like a payday moneylender. Hmm. I also question the litters. I mean, I guess they are a little over terminaled, given that they both have only double terminals, so maybe they value the village a lot. And yeah, Yuri's got a charlatan to boot. Okay, I understand the litter a little bit better now. I was imagining you don't have two terminals in the deck for that often, or for a while at least. And then I think in the short term archive looks like a much better draw card than litter if you don't need the actions. At some point, litter starts to be better. You don't want a deck full of only archives. But the first archive or two is pretty good. Hmm. Forge might not be so useful anymore. They're fairly thin. Mining Road time? Plus buy, and it plays really nicely with Platinum if you hit 9. Could just be another litter. My vote remains Mining Road. I would think it's between litter and Mining Road. Litter seems like the safer play. I'm just gonna add another village, one more round of crashing, and then buy a Mining Road next turn, and then try to hit 9 after that. Uh, I think Mining Road is a reasonable gamble. Even if it doesn't line up immediately, it's still not a card you're unhappy to see. At a minimum, it's 2 money and plays all right with the Secluded Shrine. Sacrifice the Secluded Shrine looks correct here. Think you need that anymore. You got a mining road down there, don't you want to find it? Kill the shrine, play the mining road, buy a platinum, buy a litter. You decks going places. Bottom three cards are, I believe, one copper, mining road, and town crier was the third card. Yeah, so Erie is 100% guaranteed to find the mining road because if it's on the bottom, you could just cantrip the town crier and draw it. All right. Xyrix once again finds a nice early resign line. We'll never know. Become of that kingdom. This looks strong. Maybe not. Farrier is a very strong card, but it's quite handily countered by Cutthroat as well as Sword. Sword is such an awful card. Uh, is there anything that synergizes well with Patron here? Don't think so. Will-O-Wisp can technically reveal it. I think that's your best shot. Why is it showing Exorcist as if Exorcist is in the kingdom? That's not right. Will-O-Wisp comes from Pixie in this kingdom. I think Sheepdog looks phenomenal here. Obviously, you could activate it during your turn with Pixie or with Quartermaster. Quartermaster Sheepdog's a strong synergy in its own right. You can use Quartermaster to trigger Sheepdogs at the start of your turn. Even if you don't line that up the way you want it to, you can always just buy something, trigger the Sheepdogs in your hand, playing them using Way of the Turtle, and set them aside to draw next turn. So, for sure, want a bunch of Sheepdogs. I'm I'm kind of convinced you can delay trashing here and do something bold like double Desperation for Quartermaster or Desperation for Quartermaster plus a big Farrier overpay, and then take a Chapel a little bit later once you got your Quartermaster down. I mean, you could also just do like Quartermaster plus Chapels on opening, I suppose. Um, I think I just really want to get a Quartermaster in play. I want to gain all the Sheepdogs, and I want to have a thing that triggers the Sheepdogs. That seems super important to me. Chapel obviously is also a good card. But you gotta go. I'm gonna say the Chapel opening is wrong. I I wholeheartedly believe that. Obviously, Chapel's a very strong card, but you have sufficient thinning to justify just bum rushing the quartermasters. Like if you gain a quartermaster, buy a farrier, you're gonna find your goat pretty often and thin pretty quickly just off of that, and that'll be enough. Poor Yuri goes for a turn one farrier opening, but that I haven't hitting five there. I'm confusing myself. Oh, I see. He drew all three estates. I was trying to figure out how Yuri drew two cards off the top and didn't hit five. And it's because he drew two estates here and one estate here, and I saw the two estates. Yeah, that's a unfortunate line. So if you draw two cards, yeah, you're 60% likely to hit five off of this line, right? It's just the chance that your last estate is not in the top two cards of your deck. Um, I definitely prefer how Yuri's playing it. It doesn't seem like the draws are lining up the way that he would want them to. Yeah, unfortunately, Zir. I think this game is probably going to be decided by who gets more of the quartermasters sooner. It seems like Zirk's a little bit ahead on that, even though I think Yuri took the line that in expectation should get you quartermasters in play quicker more often than Xerx's line, at the cost of being a little bit less thin. Also worth noting that Xyrix had the goat in the turn one hand. Um, Yuri did not. That's a big difference. Like if Yuri had the goat in his turn one hand, then he would have been 100% to hit five off of this fairy overpay because there wouldn't even be a third estate to draw. I vote desperation for another quartermaster. I just want all. I don't want all the quartermasters, but I want a bunch of quartermasters. They seem quite good here. I guess you could consider maybe cutthroat or something. Cutthroat is a decent counter to farrier, but among the militias, it's definitely one of the weaker ones because your opponent can just not buy farrier until you play it, and then. Oh, what if you turtle a cutthroat? That's kind of nasty, right? Yeah. You buy a cutthroat and then you turtle it, and it's just sitting there. And then if your opponent ever tries to buy a farrier and draw a master starting hand, then you can play the cutthroat and spite them. Maybe that's the play. Yeah, Xerix is the first to do the sheepdog thingy. Both players have nicely aligned so that you can take a sheepdog off of one quartermaster and then trigger it off of a gain from the other quartermaster. Young Pixie makes sense to me. And I'm guessing Xerix just takes the last two sheepdogs. No, greedy little fella. The opportunity to win that split 7-3. Um, Xerix still seems quite ahead. Hammer, not a bad loot. Would have been a nicer loot when there were sheepdogs left, but there's other decent stuff to gain here. You don't need the plus buy super much because you got a bunch of barriers in your deck, and that's normally the main downside of Hammer. There's one buy here. I'm not sure. Just seems like Xerix already trashed his chapel. Uh, Also interesting that Yuri put two sheepdogs in hand with no way to trigger them all. You can still do this thing and set them aside for the next turn. I concur that Black Cat Cellar seem like some fairly weird buys. These decks aren't entirely consistent anymore, but I think that's to be expected. You're in a position where you'll draw often enough off of the sheepdogs that you're almost certainly hitting province, maybe double on a good turn. And I think this would be a really good turn for Yuri to buy a farrier. If you don't buy a gold, your opponent's quartermaster is stuck in play. They can't attack your hand. Uh, and you have two black cats down there. Oh, I guess Yuri doesn't have that many buys. I might have to take that back. I was thinking like buy some black cats and buy a farrier, and then if your opponent touches victory cards at all, they're probably triggering all of your black cats. That doesn't quite work with two buys. Prize goat's a good loot. I don't know. So buying a gold gets you a loot, and you did get a nice loot. But firstly, now your opponent's quartermaster's back in their deck, so you can't buy farrier. And secondly, you just triggered a million of their sheepdogs for free. These players just seem a little bit too angsty about leaving their quartermaster down. I'd be perfectly happy to have that quartermaster sitting there to activate if my opponent ever so desired to buy a gold. Is this just two provinces? I think probably so. But also watch out for an estate first pile out from Xyrix. I'm not sure how many buys he has exactly, but two quartermasters can gain you two estates. Desperation can gain you a free curse, and that just leaves you needing four gains, for example, which sounds eminently doable. Is Earth Gift enough for Yuri to dream of an estate curse pile out? Problem for Yuri is you also need points. That sure looks like someone who's trying to go for it, and I don't think is hitting it. If you gain three estates and three curses, you still need to take two provinces on top of all that. You got a decent number of games in your hand, but I don't think that's enough. I would have expected, if you're not trying to win this turn as Yuri, taking a Pixie there, decent card and one that notably does not lower the low pile. The estate gain looked like Yuri thinking he was going for a win here, and now he's reassessing as he draws. Actually, what was he expecting to draw? He's already got all the sheepdogs in play. I'm not exactly sure. It's like you need eight gains to win. You got one, two, three, four. Yeah, it's not even close. So now I would expect you turtle the black cat for next turn and buy province duchy. No. Oh, never mind. Yes. I saw the picks again and I thought that was a buy. Uh, so this has got to be a win, right? Gain 2 estates, draw a bunch of cards. You'll find enough plus buy to get a win. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 gains. You need 4. Uh, that'll do it. Yeah, that's a win in hand already. I believe that leaves it 2-all going into game 5. Xyrix, Xyrix, Xyrix. If you want to pile it efficiently, you got to right click the insignia first and then turn off or turn on auto top deck, and then you save yourself a bunch of clicks. All right, what do we got here? This is going to eventually be very powerful. Get King's Court and a lot of things that are King's Courtable. King's Court Haggler is like a million gains. Cutthroat's a lot worse here because Wolf Den. Every loot is likely to be -3 victory points. But I don't think you need the loots here. You got Sailor for trashing, Transmute for trashing, Envoy and Highwayman for draw. Got to add some consistency. This kingdom would benefit a lot from just like a cantrip. If you King's Court all your envoys, you will draw all of your cards except for one. And that one is probably going to be a King's Court. And if you just had a cantrip in your deck, it'd be easy to pick up that last King's Court. But there is no such thing. So yeah, presumably the composition of your deck here ought to be a pair of grottos, some King's Courts, some envoys, some hagglers, and some festivals. Maybe a highwayman fits in there. Probably so. I can imagine skipping highwayman. You definitely need 2 of them. And one grotto, letting you see your top 9 cards, might be enough to line up double King's Court envoy or festival envoy or whatever. How to open? I think I like Grotto Sailor. A Sailor turn would be a nice time to pick up a second Grotto. Could be Silver Sailor maybe, and you take your first Grotto on the Sailor turn and the second one soon thereafter. I think I'm leaning towards Silver Sailor over Grotto Sailor. We can get 2 Grottos either way, but I feel like the Grotto Sailor synergy means you're not really even delaying the Grotto if you buy it on the Sailor turn. You're still playing it for the first time on the second shuffle. Who wants immediate Grotto anyway? I mean, I think that's the other reasonable opening is just direct Grotto Sailor. So here, I think, yeah, normally with Grotto, I think you set aside 2 the first time you find it and buy a second Grotto. That way you don't trigger a shuffle that makes it miss. Here, I think you just set aside all 4, and then on the Sailor turn, you buy your second Grotto. No, Yuri, no, Yuri, don't do that. You fool. I agree with Silver as well. Okay. Um, I don't like. Let me think. So if you set aside 4 cards with the Grotto, why not buy Sailor here? Where? Yuri's turn 4. Uh, on a, oh, like instead of buying Grotto on turn 4, buy a second Sailor because you'd already have like look at this hand. This is that's awkward. So you'd set aside 4 with the turn 3 Grotto. Then you would have a 9 card hand turn 4. You play a Sailor. You play 2 coppers. You buy a Grotto. You have more than enough cards to set aside. Yuri's line gets the Highwayman in play early, but the other line gets your grottos are already set up with 4 cards instead of to look at. I hate seeing 2 grottos in the same hand. It's such a disaster. You can't set aside the grotto because then it gets pitched into the discard. So you got to set aside all the other stuff, and it's a whole thing. Um, I assume you set aside 4 non-grotto cards and probably buy a second sailor here. No, you couldn't even afford that. Do you set aside 3 then? Do you buy a silver? This just seems supremely awkward. I'm not convinced. Silver is not an exciting card, but it does what it has to do, which is let you play your grottos on the same turn you play your sailor. You play a sailor, you play a silver, you buy a grotto, you set aside 3 cards. Things are chugging along. Sets aside the. Look at this. This is nothing. This doesn't work. You got yourself a nasty terminal collision. You haven't set your grotto. The grotto's not set up. The highman's not set up. This is begging for duds upon duds upon duds. Yuri now has a second highwayman. A third, yeah, a second highwayman. It's, it's a lot. Doesn't even have a highway yet. I could certainly conceive of buying a highwayman in this kingdom. The sailor buffs it. Good deal. But I'm not convinced that buying highwayman at the time that Yuri bought highwayman was correct. In fact, I'm thoroughly unconvinced of it. I have no earthly idea what's going on Xyrix's side of the board. I haven't paid a lick of attention. All right. King's Court, I presume? Maybe not. Xerix did not play a Highwayman or a Grotto. You might have to buy it. Yeah. That was just going to be a terrible next turn if you didn't do something to add some draw there. Yeah, I don't think you necessarily want 2 Highwaymen in the deck all that badly, but that seemed like a more of a desperation play than anything. This is a bit of a sad turn for Yuri. If you set aside as many as you want to on Grotto, that Haggler's doing a whole lot of nothing. I think that's the correct answer. I think you just set aside 4 on Grotto and pass the turn. Yuri, the greedy little feller. A third Highwayman. We're digging ourselves deeper and deeper into a pit of our own making. The the sins of the previous turns are requiring additional Highwaymen to get us out of binds, and then the deck is just all Highwaymen and it doesn't function. Uh, I think you just have to get in the habit of always set aside on 4 on grotto. If you do that, your deck works. If you don't do that, the deck falls apart. Xyrix has 5. What do you buy it on 5? Festival, okay. Presumably Haggle's a bit better if you can support it. I don't know how many terminal action cards are in Xerx's deck, but Xerx seems to think he cannot. I guess with yeah, Xerx has 2 Highwaymen, so maybe with one festival you can't have 2 Highwaymen and a Haggler on the deck. I don't like trashing coppers. I could certainly believe that in certain positions you just don't trash copper. Make sure you hit whatever the requisite price point is. Like here, for example, I'd rather set aside a 4th copper on the grotto than trash the 2nd copper. Yeah, I think you can trash one of those coppers. What? This is just so extremely greedy. Only plays one Highwayman and only sets aside 1 card on grotto. Maybe your opponent's taking 2 envoys here. King's Court envoy, Festival envoy. Called an audible. Set aside 4. There we go. Good man. Living within your means. See, look at this. You're going to draw 4 cards off your grotto, 3 cards off your highwayman. Your whole deck is going to be in your hand. The world's your oyster. You can play your cards in whatever order you so desire. Isn't that lovely? Xerix can take. Actually, what are you taking? I presume Xerix wants a Hagro this turn. Yeah. That might have been a justified case of setting aside fewer than the maximum on Grotto. The difference between 5 and 4 there was just so big. There's a pretty clear staircase upwards from here, which is by a Haggler, by a King's Court, and so forth. I don't think Xerix could take another turn off of getting a Haggler or King's Court. All right, what do we got going on here? The Riverboat card is Rice Broker. That's not a bad target. Rice Broker Exorcist looks pretty automatic to me. Uh, it's a fun little kingdom. Most of the cards are really cheap. Workshop looks pretty decent. You play some Moats and Wandering Minstrels for draw, or Moat and Bazaar. You have a few Will-O-Wisps and Imps. You got plus buy off of Astrolabe. I'm not sure you even need to touch Counterfeit if you got just like a pair of Riverboats does the trick. Yeah, 1000% Riverboat Exorcist. I don't see anything even remotely worth considering other than that. Um, it's like the thing competing against Riverboat would be Workshop. Uh, but I don't know. Riverboat seems clearly better with such a nice target early on. You can add the Workshop after that, and then Exorcist Research could be comparable to Exorcist if you like really need to hit 5 ASAP, but you don't. And Bazaar is probably marginally better than Minstrel here, but like not by that much. Counterfeit also not clearly better than Riverboat. Uh, so to me, this one seems like a no-brainer. I think I would think a little bit more seriously about whether to take a workshop before a second Riverboat, and that might depend on the shuffles. Yeah, Riverboat Exorcist get thin quickly. From a thin deck, you throw one workshop in that deck, and that very quickly becomes like three workshops and four minstrels, and you got all the gains in the world, and then you pile out the gardens and you win the game. Yuri, 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 shame on you. Research. Second Riverboat feels like maybe too much riverboating. I mean, it is a duration card. It's like adding one Spice Merchant to your deck. I wouldn't hate a workshop over a second riverboat. I think that is defensible, but I don't think two riverboat seems bad. I'm not convinced that the player who already has two riverboats needs a counterfeit there. That felt like a case of I have five, I need to spend five syndrome. I feel like Xyrix's deck would have benefited more from just gaining a workshop at that juncture. I mean, counterfeit's not bad. It is plus buy. And it's also not that bad a thing that like once your coppers run out, you can just exo the riverboats. This is all fine. I don't think that's a big error or anything. But I don't think I would have bought a counterfeit there. Ooh, that's a nasty bottom deck. Didn't find the riverboat or the exorcist. And did draw the terminal off the top. Uh the payload's great. Workshop is like plus four coins, plus one buy. It's better than most of the five cost payload cards. And at workshop, or maybe a second riverboat. What is Yuri's deck? Yuri has a counterfeit. I just another workshop here, I think. Yeah. Minstrel and Will-O-Wisp have a nice little synergy. You play your Minstrel, and then you can line your cards up so that another Wisp or a Moat is on the top. And make it much more likely to activate. Or an Imp would also be a good target once you got those in your deck. There we go. Counterfeit costs three cards, one action, gives five coins and a buy. Oh, there's more to that sentence. Workshop gaining silver, which you counterfeit, Costs 3 cards and 1 action, gives 5 coins and a buy. Yeah, agreed. Counterfeit sucks. Just keep the workshop and don't trash the silver. Xyrix seems ahead to me. Of course, the end game is Workshop Gardens. Have you never played the base set before? What a ridiculous thing to say. Akuchi has never played Bureaucrat Mine either. Yeah, Counterfeit is just not a good card. You can turn it into a ghost. I really don't think it's even that important to hit numerical price points here. You just build a deck that plays more and more workshops until eventually you gain all the gardens and you win the game. Yeah, what Mick said. Here I think you gain another workshop, you draw and play that workshop, and then you turn this riverboat into another imp. What card became the first imp? A workshop. Sacrilegious. Does that count as a devil's workshop? If you crash a workshop to gain an imp? I wonder what else Xerix is considering. Gain workshop, draw workshop, play workshop. Then you can think about what you gain off the second workshop. That's a little non-obvious, but probably the answer is minstrel. Then you trash a riverboat, you gain an imp, you counterfeit a copper, you buy 2 moats, maybe? And maybe that's more draw than you need. Maybe you just buy out the minstrels. Maybe he's contemplating counterfeiting or exoing the counterfeit already for a ghost. I could see that as well. Research? What? What on? Oh, it's just something to feed to the exorcist. Okay, that makes sense. In that case, I second the research. If you have to choose one card in this kingdom to trash, I would choose the one that Yuri opened with, just to demonstrate that that card is trash. That's psychological warfare right there. What do you do here is Yuri. Probably. How many cards are in that discard pile? Just 1 copper? So if you play Workshop, gain a Minstrel play mode, you find the Minstrel. You can play both of these if you want to. I'm not sure if you want to play all this. Yeah, probably you do. Is there a chance that Xyrix piles out this turn? Yeah, Minstrel, I think just ends up being even ignoring the cost. I think Minstrel is just arguably the better village than Bazaar because it lines up the Will-O-Wisp so nicely. Uh, but factoring in the cost, it's a lot better than Bazaar because you don't have to buy it. This game is not really about buying things, and so sure is nice to get the lion's share of the good villages. It's not the end of the game or anything, but I would have liked to have half the minstrels as Xerix. Interesting. What are we doing here? We're not bothering to play the moat. Isn't that just passing? Maybe it doesn't matter, but that feels like passing up on one free money, right? If you had a copper and a minstrel in your discard, you could have played the workshop. Sorry, played the moat, played the minstrel, played everything you were going to play anyway, and also drawn that copper. It doesn't really matter if you were going to buy a workshop, but the principle of it. All right, is this a win? Xerix needs 7 gains. Unfortunately, workshop for Astrolabe, counterfeiting the Astrolabe would be double the gains, except that's illegal. Counterfeit kind of rotted to say non-duration. Um, so you got one, two, three, four. Oh, this is not even close to enough gains. We're off by 2, looks like. So my first intuition is to get an Astrolabe or 2 into play here, so I have some buys for next turn and I'm incredibly threatening a pile out. And then maybe take a gardens. I don't think you want to take a bunch of gardens, otherwise you open up a gardens pile out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17. Gardens will be worth 2 here by the end of the turn, I would expect. So let's say, yeah, workshop for some astrolabes, get those into play. Maybe the last workshop. How does Xerix only have 3 workshops? What happened? He did trash the one. Alright, so he's going all in on the astrolabes. Why are you playing that? What do you plan to trash next turn with that riverboat? Undo. Amazing, gonna buy a bunch of coppers or something? Oh, you're gonna trash an action for +5. Okay, I guess. Duchy and some coppers. Alrighty, so can Yuri win here? I didn't even notice that. What was in his hand? He had 2 workshops, 3 minstrels. Does he have exactly enough workshops for a pile out here or something? Maybe that's why. Trashing Minstrel to avoid trashing a workshop sure seems like I think I have exactly enough gains play, which may be true, I don't know. So I'm led to believe Yuri has six workshops in the deck, right? Because xyrix had three, I believe, and one's in the trash. And he still has his counterfeit in the deck, and at least two coppers are visible. That's four money. Uh, that feels like a win, right? Workshop for four moats and two gardens, buy two moats. Can he draw everything without playing too many moats to play all the workshops? Not sure of that. Uh, who? So the bottom three cards have a counterfeit. No, the counterfeit's in the discard. The discard pile is a counterfeit and a copper. The bottom three have a research and two workshops. Oh yeah, it actually says on the log. Um, that would have been an easier way to figure that out. Okay, so let's see. If he can draw the counterfeit and the copper that are in the discard, he wins, right? And if he draws deck, he wins. Because he would have four money plus six workshop plays, gets you two gardens and six moats, and that's a win. Um, can he draw everything? If he plays both minstrels, he only has seven total actions. So the big constraint here is that he can't play both moats and still play all six workshops. And that's why this is non-obvious. If you play two minstrels and one moat, you're 100% guaranteed not to draw the right cards because a copper or a counterfeit is always going to be the bottom card, just given how minstrel works. Um, hmm. I mean, I think there's a line that involved like researching the other moat to get a jump card out of the way or something, but that doesn't work because research is the jump card. Uh, hmm. Could there be an estate pile out? No, I think that line looks exactly the same as the moat gardens pile out, which would involve playing six workshops and buying two things, which still requires you to find the counterfeit and the copper. So it would appear that he is exactly one draw short of two different pile outs. Is there some third pile out that is less resource intensive? I think not. I don't think you're beating six moats and two gardens or just eight estates. Hmm. Could six moats and one gardens be a tie? Would he have enough cards for that? Probably not. Let's count. He's got six in play, two in the discard, that's eight, plus six workshops, 14. He has 20 cards in hand. He's not gaining 10 additional cards. Okay, so he doesn't have a tie, I don't think. What are we going for? We're second guessing ourselves. He's going to research the moat. I think that's why you undo right here. You want to research the moat while there are exactly two cards in the discard, so you don't top tick a junk card. Yeah. So he's just maximizing points. Unfortunately, it's not going to be that many points because he can't get up to 30 cards here. I would expect this to be a win for Xerix now. Goodbye, Will-O-Wisp. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. At a minimum, those two gardens are 4 points, which would bring you to 7. You still need to score 6 more points. I expect Xerix can get to 30 cards here, in which case he gets a bump up in points for gardens, which should do the trick. But I haven't actually counted that. Let's do that now. Only card in the discard is not the minstrel, the exorcist. So he's got 8 cards in play, 4 more cards down there. Oh, no, things are moving. Let's maybe that. 4 and 9 cards in play, 2 cards down there. It's 11, 13, 14, 17, 21, 22, 23 cards. Yeah, this should, I think, be a pretty trivial win, right? So if you take 7 games, which you have, you gain 2 gardens, those will be worth 3 by the end of the game. Then you have 9 points. Yeah, this will be a win. I don't think it'll be a hard one to find. Didn't trust his math. He didn't need the estate because he could have just bought 4 coppers and that would have buffed the gardens. That works as well. And I've lost track of the final score. Let me find that out real fast. Match. Xyrix. Yurikamome. A nice even 3-3 to finish things off. Okay, so what does that do to the standings? Not a whole heck of a lot. Xyrix stays at exactly 50%. Yuri Kamame goes to 16 and 14, which is just a hair above 50%. Nice even division. All right, that's the match.